If you are a busy, advanced English language learner who needs a plan to acquire all these vocabulary words, we got you.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Waggle Friends English. Today we have an advanced vocabulary study routine for you. It's just a little bit of organization, a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategy, and what we talked about in our last video, which you can watch here in case you did not watch that. It's all leading up to this right here. We have created just the simple vocabulary study plan for those of you who are busy like us and you have work and you have kids and you have all kinds of stuff. You're just trying to keep up with language learning. We've got a monthly plan for you right here to get in there and to deep dive. You can grab this in the link in the description. Just put your email in and it will sign you up for our newsletter as well, but that's free English practice for you. If you are one of our Fluency Fast Track students, you can find this in the library already.
Reason why we're going to talk about this and break this down today is because learning vocabulary is really difficult, especially when you get into the upper levels of English fluency. It can be extremely difficult because there's so many words and jargon and phrases and idioms and things that you come across. It's hard to know, how do I get these words? Where do I find them? And how do I actually use them? So first and foremost, where do you find these words?
I suggest so that you can go slowly, you can pace yourself, and you can see the words. You can listen to YouTube videos and look at the transcripts. You can listen to podcasts and grab the transcript if they provide one. But if you want to be able to slow down and really think as you're going and really see the word spelling and the way that it's used and just be able to go back over it as many times as you need a book. We suggest something like James Clear's Atomic Habits, or you could do Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. If you're really crazy and you're actually functionally fluent already, you can do something like Ron Chernow's Alexander Hamilton. That's a beefy book, and you will get a lot of vocabulary from this. You won't go very far in 10 minutes. All this is to say, use some of these books to really help you see these words in context, and they are written for the average American. They're written at an 8th grade reading level. No, the words are not going to be awesome. They're not going to be over and beyond like Hamilton is, but you can definitely get a lot of solid words that are actively used all the time from these books, and that's what you want to get to fluency.
YouTube and podcasts and things like that are a great platform because you can do this while you're washing the dishes. You can do this while you're driving to work. Don't be looking at the screen while you're driving, please. But you're likely not to encounter a lot of elevated vocabulary that way, and so when you come across a surprising word that's in an email or a person does manage to slip in a really elevated word, it becomes very difficult to hear that word. I've often used the example of it's like white noise. As opposed to that, when you are reading something, words are right there for the taking. And a lot of times you can grab these words and you can figure out what are the ways you can do this. So find a really good book written for native speakers, diving deep into a topic that may be slightly too difficult. Start uncovering these words that you can then use in daily life, because you will never be able to acquire those words if you don't actually come across them in a natural context. You can't just flip through a dictionary and be like, formidable, I'm going to use that word now. It's not how it works.
Let's talk about how to just get into the strategy of using this. What we did is you have 4 pages for every week, and you can do one of these per day and use the other days as catch up in case something comes up, because something always comes up. If you have kids, something's always going to come up. Try to get yourself to be consistent. You want to finish all 4 pages in 1 week. And then we gave you 4 weeks per month. So when you get in here, you can literally just write the month and the year right there. And you can print this out as many times as you need to, put it into a binder, and you have your vocabulary. So as you are reading, give yourself roughly 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes to just read and write down the words that you don't know. Look them up, whatever you have there. But then I want you to narrow those words down. You can highlight them if you have the physical book. But once you have those words, I want you to sort through them. And I want you to pick 5 of them that you have seen before and you've just never taken the time to really learn or add to your vocabulary, something that you hear often. Find something that is somewhat frequent. You can ask a native speaker friend if you have one. Just say, out of these words, which are the 5 I should focus on this week? They'll be able to pull it out regardless of the context that you got them in. They won't even need to know that you got them out of a book. Take that list from your 10 minutes of reading, and I want you to write down 5 of them. I want you to write 5 of them down right here, and go ahead and write down the definition for that context. If you're feeling extra and you have some extra time, you can go ahead and write down a couple more definitions, but definitely focus on the definition and you can peruse the other definitions, if you will.
Another great idea is to write down some of the synonyms that are associated with that word. This just, again, helps you get those memory hooks in there so that you can learn not only this really complicated word, but you can start tying it to the other synonyms that you probably already know.
And if you've got a really good native English speaker friend, or you have a tutor or a teacher, go ahead and ask them, hey, when would I use this synonym instead of this word? Or what is the difference between this list of synonyms? What are the differences here? When is this versus this? Getting that kind of conversation to happen is actually very helpful for becoming fluent because it gives you all sorts of memory hooks. It helps you get new perspectives, and it might actually prove you wrong. Like if you have a word that's very close to this in your language, and so you lean toward one particular synonym as a perfect replacement for it, a native English speaker might say, actually, no, this word is far closer to it, and here's why.
So on another day, what we want you to do is we want you to rewrite those words. So don't just leave them behind. Don't just stop using your pen and paper. Rewrite those words and then start to write example sentences using those words. Because if you can start to produce things in a natural way, then those words are more likely to stick. Especially if you do it multiple times for each word, you'll find that you're going to be far more comfortable than just reading a word on a page. You're actually scratching that word on a piece of paper, and that scratching process will actually help you remember it a lot better.
On another day, we want you to take those words and we want you to put them at the top. Now in the guide, you can see here this gray box, and you're going to see 9 slots there actually. And what I want you to do is I want you to put the 5 words from this week, but then I want you to put 4 words from another week or other words that you've picked up. It could be some of your favorite synonyms or some synonyms that came up in a conversation that you've had or that you've seen more often than the word that you're targeting. But you could also put words from other weeks. If you've done this for multiple weeks already, you can harken back to those. The thing is you want to have some spaced repetitions. You want to go back, circle back, and use a lot of these words. That's how you add it to your active vocabulary. Once you have those words, you have that list out, I want you to pick a topic. You could challenge yourself and do something super difficult like catapult, or you could take it and you could write about your day, or you could talk about a hot topic or something that's been bothering you recently. Maybe you need to problem solve, but I want you to try to engage these words. I want you to try to fill up this page right for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes if you need to, and just use these words. Try to use them as you go. And it's not going to be perfect. This is where following along in a book and getting your words from a book is helpful because it gives you a topic. It gives you something to practice with. So if you can write on the topic, circle back and write about what you read about in the book using these words, that's even better because it gives you a context, it gives you a background, it gives you something to talk about already. But the idea is you are using these words, you're stringing them together on purpose, and you're taking the time to slowly write it out. And I know from how many surveys we've done that people do not like writing in English. I get it, but it is the thing that you can do that will slow you down, force you to spell, force you to actually think about what you're writing and to practice it. And for extra points, if you come back the next day and reread what you wrote and read it out loud and try to think of a response, try to think of a way to write it better or to speak about that topic out loud to yourself as you do some chores or something, that's extra points, right? You're going back to your writing, you're reading it out loud, you're improving it maybe as you do that, and then you are thinking about it actively, you're speaking on it.
I think a lot of times when people think of like producing something or using something, they're thinking of like sentence examples. Mm-hmm. But for us, what we want you to do is we want you to connect that word to the broader context. You can't miss the forest through the trees here. You have to be able to use these words and to say, this is a key, this is a piece of a larger puzzle, but it's a piece, right? Yes. We have to have the piece in order to complete the puzzle. In a small article that you write, nothing fancy, nothing huge, nothing long. You're not writing an 8-page paper here. You're just producing it in a coherent, thoughtful response so that you can show your own mind, maybe yourself, that this word is a useful word that otherwise you couldn't have finished this puzzle. You couldn't have finished this article without.
And the cool thing about this too is that it gives you the confidence for the next step, which is to go out and speak with it. Go out and use it in a conversation. You can do this a little bit as you are talking to a person back in step 1 and just trying to figure out what it means and the difference between it and its synonyms, which one's better in which context. You're going to use it some then, but then I want you to go out and try to use it naturally. Try to use it for its meaning and with its synonyms for extra bonus points even. But try to go out there and do small talk or go use jargon talk or ask somebody what they think about this. You can go and probably find a community talking about these books online somewhere, and you can use them in context. We actually use this in Fluency Fast Track. We will walk through a book and we'll talk about the words as they come up, and we'll try to give our students opportunities to use them and practice with them in live conversation.
The last day of the week is grading time. So what we've done is we've actually given you a very measurable grading scale to say, hey, how well did you do with that word? How well did you do with that idiom or phrase? What you do is you actually get to grade yourself and you say, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? And so you get points. So for example, you would get 1 point for completing page 1. You've defined the words, you find the synonyms. You get 2 points for just rereading the page or where you found it. That's listening again to the audio. That's watching that YouTube video again. That's just going over it again. 3 points for page 2, which is writing the word in a proper sentence. 4 points for writing that paragraph, writing that small little article using those words in the proper context. 5 points for actually reading that passage out loud. We have to connect different parts of our English. We cannot just put pen to the paper, sit back and be done. We need to actually engage our mouth along with it and improve as you go. While you speak it out loud, you go back over it, you slow down, and you find more things that you can do better. Lastly, 6 points, and this is probably the most difficult, is you bring that word out in a real conversation with another person and you use it in a real conversation. You actually produce it so that the other person can then validate or say, actually, in this context, that's not exactly right. If you can do that, then you'll get 21 points, and that shows that you have done an amazing job. The likelihood that that term will stick in your brain will be far, far more likely.
As you go through, if you can add up all of these, you will get 105 points if you just get a perfect score in a week. But we have added the section at the bottom for how can you do better? How can you add more? We only did 4 sheets on here so that you have the flexibility to customize what you're doing and to add more activities for your context, your situation. Whether you are part of a membership program or whether you're part of an online course or you're working with a tutor or a teacher in an ESL class, whatever it is that you are doing, we have left some room for flexibility, for life to happen and for flexibility and adding extra exercises to really work with what you've got.
Guys, we challenge you to really think about and be honest with yourself here, because these words are significant, and there's an element where it could be that you're just going too fast. And for you to be able to slow down and ask yourself the question, how did I really do this week? Let me be honest and just see if, am I too anxious over these words? Am I putting too much pressure? Am I not taking this as seriously as I should? Ask yourself the hard questions, because it's only through those hard questions that we can actually then grow. In this last summary statement of how your week did, really reflect on it and about how well you can do the next week, because once you turn the page over, you start again. And you start that same process of finding those words, choosing those words, and rinse and repeat. But this process is the thing that grows and becomes more efficient and becomes a self-improving system.
All right, finally, at the end of the month, we gave you a little bit of a summary sheet. What we want you to do is we want you to write all 20 words that you went over that month. And then we want you to just reflect on them. You can review them at this point. That's a good idea. You should review their words. But we also want you to write a little bit of a paragraph. Again, how did I do overall this month? Was there a consistent theme of something that I consistently screwed up? I consistently did not do this step. What can I do next month to change that? Having these periods of just checking in is super important for growing, for going further. Guys, if you do this for a whole year, that's 240 words that you really know. Not just like know a little bit, but the words that you took the time to really get into. And as you can imagine, this kind of gets clunky over time. Like you're going to have a binder just full of 2 or 3 years worth of words. What you can do is you can start putting these into an Excel document if you're Excel savvy, or into a Google Sheets doc if you are Google Sheets savvy. It's actually a great way to put all that information there, and then you could start to actually search for a term. If you're like, I think I've done this word before, you can type it in and you can find it and find the definition there if it is indeed there. That is actually a very helpful way to just organize several years worth of things. And it's another step in your week. You can take those 5 words at the end of the week and add it to that Google Sheet and organize it.
That's if you're a little bit tech savvy in those ways, but that kind of organization is going to be what really helps you to push towards fluency. Guys, we understand that a piece of paper, a document, or whatever, it's not going to change the world. But we also understand that if you don't have the means to push forward to fluency, if you keep finding yourself fighting and struggling and kind of getting pushback, and you're throwing words on the wall, or you're throwing plaster on the wall and it's just falling off again and again and again, that's what this plan is for, so that it can be a way to help you guys feel like you can get more out of the work that you're already putting into.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Download that PDF. Go to the link in the description, put in your email, and get that document sent straight to you, and print it off as many times as you need to, guys. This is something that can really help you. And as you progress, reach out to us, email us, let us know like how it's doing for you and how much you've learned. Send some of the words that you've learned. We'd be super curious.
All right, we will catch you on the next one.